So friends, as you're arriving, like, not that like Rob and Janet, not that Brendan will ever sit down, but you could add a fifth chair there. The chairs you can move around, but it may be useless. Because what are the chances? But all the chairs can be moved around if you wish. And we may need to get a few more out, even. So yeah, Jessica and Jacqueline, be aware that it's possible we'll have to go in there and get a few more chairs, but not yet, but it could happen. It is a good thing. All right, friends, I think we are just about ready. And Jerry and Ann, can you hear me pretty well, or should I turn it up a little bit? Up a little bit? Okay, just 1 second. Turn the master up. All right, friends, probably better? Okay. So Shabbat Shalom, thank you for joining us live in the Murray Davis Courtyard at Temple of Abraham and on YouTube. You will notice that there is a fairly tall guy with a bass guitar next to me. Mike Aronson is going to help me lead the service.
Recreating a little bit of the rock and roll Shabbat.
Yeah, it's a mini rock and roll Shabbat. Right, just a mini rock and roll Shabbat. So very excited to have Michael here with us. And so even though, you know, unfortunately we're probably going to be saying this for a long time now. It's been a tough week. There's a lot of things that are not pleasant going on in our world, particularly with COVID. We never let Shabbat, so we let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad. Page 6, Yismachu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. I'm loving that sound of the bass guitar, adding a whole texture to the service. All right, we're going to go to Romamu, page 12. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtakavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtakavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. All right, Mizmor LeDavid, page 13. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai bnei Elim, Havu l'Adonai, Kavod va'oz, ay, 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 Havu l'Adonai, כבוד שמו ישתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש כל אדוני על המים אל הכבוד הרים אדוני על מים רבים כל אדוני בכוח איי 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 כל אדוני בהדר כל אדוני שובר ארזים וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון וירכירם כמו עגל לבנון וסריון כמו בן רעמים איי 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 כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש כל אדוני יחיל מדבר יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש כל אדוני יחולל איילות ויחסו יערות והיכלו כולו מרכבות איי 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 אדוני למה בו ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום היי יאי יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי ניי יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 yai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai 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 nai. All right, we're going to be on the Chadodi, page 15. Shomanik, you're welcome to move any chair you want anywhere, of course, you know, but or just sit in the front row. That's okay too, whatever you want. Like this actually, I can't believe I've never thought of this, but with these chairs, like you can just keep moving the front row back or up or whatever the case may be. You know, we have no choice in the matter, right? There's no pews. You just moving that front row back. Of course, you'll be constrained by the walls of the social hall, but other than that, you could do that. All right, I'd turn the bass up just a little bit if you could, for more layering on the Chadodi, page 15. Lecha lecha dodi nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela Lecha lecha dodi nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela La 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 lecha lecha dodi nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela Lecha lecha dodi nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela Jamor v'zachor be'ibur echad Ishmi'anu el ha'meichad Adonai echad Shemo echad Shemo tiferet v'li'ila la 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 lecha lecha dodi Nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela Lecha dodi nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela Nikrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki v'kor ha'veracha Merosh mikedem nesucha Zov ma'aseh b'machshava Tchila la 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 lecha lecha dodi Nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela Lecha dodi nikrat kala Panei Shabbat nekavela. Bottom 17. Yamin usmo titrotzi et Adonai taritzi al yad ish ben partzi ונשמחה ונגילה לה 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 לך לך דודי לקראת לקראת קלה פני פני שבת נקבלה חדותי לקראת לקראת קלה פני פני שבת נקבלה. We rise and welcome the Shabbat bride. You arrived like 30 seconds too early, Dara, you could have been the bride, but welcome back from Eretz Yisrael. Page 18. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, toch emre am segula, boi kala, boi kala. Lecha lecha duti likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha lecha duti לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. המקום מנחמכם בתוך שער אבלי ציון וירושלים. May God comfort you with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem when we may be seated. And we're on page 19. מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. Continue silently, pages 19 and 20. Tzadik katamar yifrach, yifrach tzadik katamar yifrach, tzadik katamar yifrach, yifrach tzadik katamar yifrach, ka'erez balvanon yiske, ka'erez balvanon yiske, ka'erez balvanon yiske, yiske, ka'erez balvanon yiske, ka'erez balvanon yiske, ka'erez balvanon yiske, yiske. Page 21. Adonai malach yot lavesh, lavesh Adonai zitazar, afti konter ba'altimot, nachon kisachav me'as ma'amata, nasu nerot Adonai, nasu nerot, kolam yisu nerot, toch yam. Now, on the bottom of 21, Mikolot Mayim, a song about rushing waters and the breakers of the sea. I'm substituting that one for Susan Gilday's favorite song, Eli Eli, because it's the same theme, the same idea. שלא ייגמר לעולם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם. O Lord my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, And those are the words not of Psalm 93, but of Hannah Senesh in her piece, her poem called A Walk in Caesarea. Seeing the beautiful imagery there in the midst of World War II. All right, we rise now, page 22, the Baruch Hu, the formal call to prayer. You're kind of facing, that is east, the diagonal of the plant, of the big plant. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Mevorach, Le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim. Reyom v'layla golel mipnei choshech b'choshech mipnei or. Mavri yom u'mevei layla mavdil ben yom u'vein layla. Adonai tzvaot shemho el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavetam Amcha ahavetam Torah u'mitzvot U'kim u'mishpatim Otanu limaditam Otanu limaditam Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu Kumeinu nesiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orek yameinu Uvahem nege yomam v'layla Nege yomam v'layla Ve'vatcha al tasir Mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo Yisrael. Page 25. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anuchi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, vayuletotafo beinenecha, uktavtam al mizuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Continue silently, 27 through 29. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. All right, we're on page 32. Michamocha, Malchuto Bratzon Kibul Alehem, Moshe Bnei Israel Chanashira B'Simcha Rabah V'Yamru Kulam. Michamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha Nedar B'Kodesh. Nora tehilot, Osefele, Nora tehilot, Osefele. Malchut lecha uvanecha, Vokei hayam lifnei Moshe. Ze'eli anu ve'ameru, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Ka'al Yisrael. 1, 2, 3, 4. Michamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha Nedar B'Kodesh. Nora tehilot, Osefele, Nora tehilot, Osefele. Nora tehilot, Osefele, Osefele. $33. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'amidenu malkeinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'amidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu, uvoenu, lechaim u'shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. All right, you all on this side of the, you can follow, well, I was going to say you can sort of follow Mike, but you won't be able to hear him anyway. But you're going to start the round. Hashkivenu Adonai, Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'amidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'amidenu malkeinu lechaim. Protier, we rise for Vishamru, page 34. Shamru Bnei Yisrael Hashabbat La'asot et Hashabbat Ledorotam Berit Olam B'nei Bnei Yisrael Oti Leolam Oti Leolam Oti Leolam Shamru Bnei Yisrael השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Remain standing for the Chatzi Kadesh. Yikral v'ikra shemei rabbah. V'madi v'rachirute v'amlich malchute b'chaye chon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'izman kariv imeru. Yesh mei rabbah mevorach le'olam l'al me'omayayim. Yiparach v'ishtabach v'yipar v'imram v'inaseh v'itadar v'italev v'italal shmei dekudsha v'richu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen. All right, Private Amidah, pages 37 through 48. I don't know if you play on it or not. Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Imeru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'meru Amen. I'm going to do the Matbea Tefillah on page 49. Vayachlu Hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam Vayachal Elohim b'yom hashvi'i melachto asher asa Vayishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Konei Shamayim va'aretz, Magen Avot bidvaro, Mechayei Meitim b'mamaro, Ha'el Hakadosh she'ein kamohu, Haminiach le'amo, Yom Shabbat Kodsho, Kivam Ratza lehaniach lahem, Kivam Ratza lehaniach lahem, Lefanav navo b'irava fachad, V'nodeh lishmo bechol yom tamid, Me'ein habrachot, El hahodaot, Adon HaShalom, Mekadesh HaShabbat Umvarek Shavi'i Umeniach Pikdusha Liamikdush Ne'oneg Zecher Lema'aseh V'Reshit Eloheinu V'Elohei Avotenu Ritzei V'imnuchatenu Kadshenu B'mitzvotecha V'ten Chelkenu B'toratecha Sabenu mituvecha V'samchenu b'shuatecha V'taher libeinu Le'ovdecha be'emet V'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu B'ahava u'v'ratzon Shabbat kodshecha V'yanuchu v'Yisrael Mekadshei shemecha Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 53, Kedalvik Kedash Shemei Rabbah, Ve'almadi Vrach Yerutei Ve'amlich Malchutei, V'chayechon of Yom Echon V'chedechol Beit Yisrael, Bagalav Izman Kari Ve'imeru, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam Lo Me'al Mayayid, Yiparach Tishtabak, Yiparach Ram V'naseh, V'tadav V'talev V'talal Shmei Kudsha, Brechu, Le'elamin Ko Berchata V'shirata, Tishbchata V'nechemata Damiram Yom Avimeru, Tikabot Slot Donavot Tozachol Israel, Korab Avahondi Vishmai V'imeru, Heshlam Rab Min Shemai V'chayim Ko Israel V'imeru, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'el Ko Yisrael V'el Ko Yishvei Tevel V'imeru. All right, we have reached the point where we are back to the presidents of the United States and an analysis of their relationship to the Jewish community. And we're up to one where there are actually people either here or watching who were alive while this man was president. And that is Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. FDR was a Democrat, of course. He was a member of the Episcopal denomination of Christianity. You know these things. You know that he served the most terms of anybody ever. 4 terms. You know that he overcame polio. He had polio. You know about the New Deal. And you know that he was the president as we entered and during most of World War II. Going backwards a little bit, he was the governor of New York. Actually, one other thing before I get to his politics, his family, you know, they were like a descendant of people who came to the United States in the late 1600s, majorly aristocratic family. He was a distant relative of both President Theodore Roosevelt and his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt. It was pretty distant, but you may not know that Theodore Roosevelt walked Eleanor down the aisle at the wedding of Eleanor and FDR. He was the governor of New York, and he was beloved by the Jewish community, absolutely beloved, particularly because of the social programming and the work he did as governor for the elderly in particular, as well as the needy in general. When he ran for president against Herbert Hoover, besides the fact that it was a landslide and the Great Depression was going on, he received 82% of the Jewish vote, which was the most of any president up until that time. And Jews used to say there was Die Welt, which means this world, Jene Welt, which means the world to come, and Roosevelt, right? That's how much he was beloved. He was very close with many Jewish leaders. Three in particular stand out. One was Rabbi Stephen S. Wise, who was the leader of the Free Synagogue in New York, a major leader in the labor movement as well as one of the founders of the NAACP. They had a falling out for a while, and during Roosevelt's first few years, he was not allowed in the White House, but they reconciled, and he was once again. Henry Morgenthau Jr. became his Secretary of the Treasury. Henry Morgenthau became very involved in the Jewish community after his political career, where he was one of the board, you know, maybe even president of the United Jewish Appeal, the UJA, and Israel Bonds as well. Felix Frankfurter, Harvard law professor, eventually appointed as one of the Supreme Court justices by Roosevelt. He was very liberal, even radical. He was also a Zionist, big supporter of Israel, and there's actually an incident where there was a Paris Peace Conference where Emil Faisal, who was the son of Sharif Hussein of Mecca, they negotiated actually Arab support for Zionism in what was then called Palestine, on the condition that Arab nationalist aims in Syria and Iraq were met. So there was kind of a trade-off. And believe it or not, I know these things are really hard to fathom today, but if you go back and look at that, you'll find very interesting history there. And Frankfurter was also a huge supporter of Roosevelt, social justice, and the New Deal. But now we get to World War II. And there's been a lot written about FDR and World War II and how supportive or how big a failure he was to the Jewish community. Early on, for sure, in the mid-1930s, FDR was not convinced that the Nazis were that grave of a threat. And he sent an envoy there who came back and told Wise, who told Roosevelt, who told Wise, there's nothing to fear, the synagogues are crowded. And then the Olympics came, and he, along with many others, were fooled. I mean, when you see footage of that Olympics, you see what a great, you'll see what a grand ceremony it was. You might not understand, we might not understand today, how many Americans bought the act, okay, that it's not so bad. In fact, The Nation, a liberal Jewish newspaper at the time, wrote, "One sees no Jewish heads being chopped off or even roundly cudgeled. The people smile, are polite, and sing with gusto in the beer gardens. Board and lodging are good, cheap, and abundant. Everything is terrifyingly clean," which was really actually a premonition, but that's not how he meant it. "And the visitor likes it all." In 1938, there was recognition that there are refugees from the war, including Jewish refugees, and Roosevelt was one of the people who called the Evian Conference. There were 32 nations there, but the United States among them. Only one nation among the 32 agreed to take any refugees at all, and that was the Dominican Republic, oddly enough. The reaction to Kristallnacht was very mild. He did sort of recall the envoy, but He was trying to keep the peace and not go to war with Germany. The real turning point for some Jews of his negativity, as you might guess, was the U.S. St. Louis, the SS St. Louis, which was the ship that was trying to dock in Miami and it was sent to Cuba, was never allowed in, was sent back to Europe, and almost everyone on the ship perished in the concentration camps. But then around 1942, Roosevelt began to speak in harsher terms, as you would expect. He said at a rally in Madison Square Garden, the American people will hold the perpetrators of these crimes to strict accountability in a day of reckoning which will surely come. But his words were mostly empty. A Polish diplomat named Jan Karski escaped Poland, came to Washington and Great Britain to convince FDR and the Congress that the final solution was real, that the goal was to exterminate all the Jews of Europe. He mostly listened for an hour, according to reports. Didn't say much. So Karski asked him, "Mr. President, I'm going back to Poland. Poland will know that I was received by the President of the United States. Everyone will ask me, what did President Roosevelt tell you? You will tell them that we shall win this war. You will tell them that the guilty ones will be punished. Justice and freedom shall prevail. You will tell your nation that they have a friend in this house, the White House." But those words, too, may have been empty. It's, he certainly spoke the words. And if I were to evaluate with all that I've read about it, I would say that mostly it's not that he wasn't concerned. It's just that he wasn't willing to take certain risks to what he felt was the strategy of the war effort. History, mostly Jewish writers, in retrospect, mostly condemn him. Arthur Morse's While 6 Million Died, A Chronicle of American Apathy. David Weinman's The Abandonment of the Jews, America and the Holocaust, and others, who mostly call it the worst failure of his presidency. Because he really didn't accept the reality early on. He didn't take refugees, and he didn't bomb either the railroad tracks leading to Auschwitz or the crematorium. He felt that it would divert essential air power that was needed elsewhere, but they did bomb 50 miles away, and even industrial targets within Auschwitz, not in the death camp Birkenau, but the Auschwitz part, were bombed, but not the railroad tracks, not the gas chambers. So there's lots to condemn him for in retrospect. But the Jews of the time did not, because remember I told you he got 82% of the vote in his first election? In his last election, right in the midst of World War II, he got 90% of the Jewish vote. So it's only when these things started to come out later that Jews began to have very mixed feelings. So that's a little bit about Roosevelt, but I have one more addendum, which I found very interesting and didn't know, which was that his grandson, John, married a Jewish woman named Janet Adler. They had a son named Joshua Adler Boettinger, who is a Reconstructionist rabbi. So there you go. That's it for FDR. No, I didn't do 2 weeks. Did it all. It was a little long, but it was worth it. The buck stops next week. Well, but not the presidents. The buck will stop. But we're doing Harry Truman next week. And I said, we're going to go at least through Clinton. Then when I get to Bush II, Obama, and Trump, I actually believe I can do it fairly, but none of you will agree that I can do it fairly. And so I may not do that. Depends how bold I am feeling, okay? Anyway. We will continue. There's lots of children here with their parents. At least a couple of them are sitting with their parents. So at least Janet and Rob get to put their hands on the heads of their two. If Ariella and Eyal and Brendan want to come back, go visit your parents for just a minute. They're going to bless you right now. What was that? You're still in Israel. And we say, Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe, Simech Elohim ke'Sariv karach evaleya, Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisad Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. Amen. And we also had Michael, son of Roz. So we had one other one, which is just terrific. May you continue to be blessed. And Brendan, specifically for you, Eze Goal, okay? He's on my soccer team. It's part of the... He blessed us with much good play, actually, on the field in the under 8s, under 7s even, I think it was, they call it. All right, we will continue now. We rise for the Aleinu, page 57. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer v'reshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol amonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu note shamayim ve'yoset aretz, u'moshe v'yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, v'shchinat uzo, v'gav emiro mi'im, hu Eloheinu enod, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatu betorato, ve'data ayom, ve'hashivota, elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim ima'al aretz ve'aretz mitachat enod all kind of coming. Kakatu b'torah tech Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We may be seated as we lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends whose yortzites we observe during the coming week. Thinking especially today of Lena Adowich, Edward Berkovich, and it's been 1 year, so our thoughts are most definitely with you, Darlene and Michael. Philip Bierman, Louis Brodowski, Toba Bernstein, a real character, and maybe the first adult bar mitzvah here. It's unclear, but she said she was, but she's not the only one to lay that claim. Eva Klein David, Sylvia Davis, Peter DeVoren, Joseph Dienstag, Robert Adessis Sr., Leah Friedman, Bessie Gerber, Bill Hale, Jacqueline Helfend, Sylvia Heyman, Rose Jaffe, Norman Allen Katz, Fanny Kessler, Molly Kessler. I'm not sure if those are no, there's no Kesslers here actually tonight. Matilda Kramer, Max Cushman, Edward Kushner, Charles Levine, who I know Chuck is named after, Harry Levitch, Jonathan Lisker, May Mailman, Mom Mailman. Is that two different people or? Okay. Jacob Miron, Avraham Yair Pincus, and I know you're on his behalf and he's in Israel. Saul Quitman, one of the founders of the congregation who owned a haberdashery in Oakland. Robert Rothman, Fanny Schiffman, Jacob Seltzer, Ruben Semendoff, Sam Silver. We're in the Shloshim for Aviva Rachel Shotland, Francis Block, Simi Baum, the mother of Amy Tesler, and Andy Simonoff, the sister of Eric Lev. The memories of all of them are with us. We ask all those who are in mourning, observing yortzeit, and anyone else who would choose to join me in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 267. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayechol Beit Yisrael v'galav v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach le'olam l'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudsha berichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata trush bechata v'nechemata damiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom bimroma hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. May the memory of the people you've come to say Kaddish be a blessing to you always. And let us say Amen. The memory be a blessing to you. 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 May the memory be a blessing to you. The memory be a blessing to you. May the memory be a blessing to you. May the memory be a blessing to you. All right. A few announcements. Tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. services in the sanctuary. We're going to announce the new month. That's one thing that's happening. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in particular. Jessica Delero will be leading Musaf. She doesn't know that yet, but she will be leading Musaf tomorrow. Oh, no, it's on. It should be on. Yeah, Jessica Delero will be leading Musaf. Oh, yes, there is childcare for the first time tomorrow. Outdoors only with Molly and, I'm forgetting his name, but there is outdoor childcare. So Karen, you're in luck. Because Karen has basically been doing childcare. Yeah. So we have that. Preschool, Gan Avraham starts this week. I just thought I would announce that. Pretty exciting. A lot of the schools start this week. We hope we'll be safe, do the best we can. And let's see. Well, I'm talking about, and I don't know if you care, but I'm talking about My Unorthodox Life tomorrow. I am. Raise your hand if you've seen, anybody seen a single episode of that? I finished the whole series. Okay, okay, yes. I mean, yes, but did you see an episode? Okay, so you saw a couple episodes. That's it? New York. Okay, you did? All right, unfortunately, now you're going to now watch it, and I hate it. But, okay, so I'll talk much more about it tomorrow. But My Unorthodox Life is a, reality show, unscripted show about a woman who left the Hasidic community in New York to found a fashion empire. And it's kind of part Kardashians, part Real Housewives. Not that I've ever seen either of those two shows. I actually have not. But from what I understand, that's what it's like. And there's a lot of Jewish stuff in it, a lot about her leaving Judaism, her kids and how they feel about it. They all treat it very differently. Some, some are still kind of have one foot in the Orthodox world. Some hate it even more than the mom does. And as you can imagine, they wear like nothing, okay, in the show. And anyway, I'll be talking about it and other similar shows tomorrow, all based on the Torah portion. I promise. Anyway, that's tomorrow. Minyan Monday, Thursday in the sanctuary. High Holidays Hebrew Refresher with Susan Simon, Thursday, August 19th. All right, and Mazel Tov to Leah and Ben Bloom, no relation to me, who will be having a baby naming here, but it's not public. It's invitation only in the courtyard on Sunday. All right, enough. And Michael, come on back up for Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people live, Abu Yadaya version, the Jews of Uganda. That's kind of a rock and roll staple. It includes a drum solo, which obviously will not be happening. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. Oh, Ravinu Chai. Oh, Ravinu Chai. Oh, Davinu Chai. Whoa, Davinu Chai. Here we go again. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom.